So sorry, there was no recording. So I have to just say Bismillah Rahman Rahim. So let's just go to Suratul Fatiha and see what we can find. Why is it not going there? Go to, okay. No, I need to go to here and then let me go back. Okay. Can you all see Suratul Fatiha? And Jazakallah khair, Sister Faiza, for reminding that there was no recording on, but we, Alhamdulillah, we just did the review. So I hope people will be able to, still, they can go back to the previous session. Yes, but Jazakallah khair for bringing it to my attention here. Okay, so now we have, as your word is by default rough in status, right? So in this sentence, if you look, alhamdu, what will be the job of alhamdu here? Is it a doer or a subject? Right? You all agree that why alhamdu is a rough in status? Because it's a subject, right? And when you have a verbal sentence, now look at in this sentence, when we were doing the Suratul Fatiha review in our in our table form, did we ever see any fail in this whole verse? Verse number 2. Do you see any fail? No, you don't see any fail, right? So what kind of a sentence should it be? Is it a verbal sentence or a nominal sentence? It's a nominal sentence, right? Okay, so now when it is your nominal sentence, you have seen that this is rough in status, and you are just going to call it your subject. If you see this word lillahi, what's the status of Allah? We have determined that in our previous session. It is jar in status. Is it one word or there are two words there? What are those two words? One is harf and one is ism, right? Everyone agrees? Okay, now, why do you think lafzul jalala here is in the status it is in right now? Number one, it is the status of lafzul jalala is what is the status of it is jar. So can you see this li here? This is the reason for your lafzul jalala to be jar in status, right? So who has memorized the 3 reasons for the word to be jar in status? And if you can type, I will appreciate. There were 3 reasons on your slides for a word to be jar in status. 3 reasons for a word to be jar in status. Number one, if a word is after, off, it is always going to be jar in status. That's no problem, okay? If a word is after off, it is going to be jar in status. Remember we did it kitabullahi, rasulullahi. Do you remember that or forgot all about it? I know it is something, it can be sometimes tricky, but inshallah, we have to, whatever we learn, we need to go back, right? So if the word is after off, it's going to be jar in status, right? If a word is object of a preposition, like, there's a preposition before a word, then that preposition sometimes can make this word jar in status, right? So Sister Faiza is typing all that for you if a word is an object of preposition, right? So in case of Suratul Fatiha, what made lafzul jalala jar? Is it after off or is it because of a preposition? What do you think? Follower of a preposition, right? There was li there and li attacked Allah, right? Li was there and li attacked, we should not say attack, but it was lafzul jalala, you had a preceding li, so that is why it is jar in status, right? Because of the preposition, we can say that lafzul jalala is jar in status. Everyone with me so far, or I lost all of you? You are with me? So make sure whatever we do, your home, if you are not assigned any homework, your homework is to go over your previous slides. I purposely did not give you any homework because the concepts that we are now coming at, they're somewhat difficult concepts. And inshallah, with reviewing class, you will be able to master them. It's not that you will, you will not master, you will master them, but it's very important that we go back and see, our three reasons, and that, it is very important, inshallah. And we all are here for sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The goal is not perfection, but the goal is striving towards perfection, right? We cannot be perfect, right? And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perfect, but we can all try to strive towards excellence, inshallah, in which we are going to, inshallah, do here. Okay, inshallah. So remember, if it is after off, that is going to be jar. If it is object of preposition, which means that if there is a certain preposition before your word, then your word is going to be jar in status. So if I take you to this Suratul Fatiha again, now everyone knows why lafzul jalala is jar in status, right? Everyone with me? Type 1 if you are. Alhamdulillah. Okay. These small things, make sure you pay attention to them. Okay. Now, Rabbil Alameen, how you translate it? Can you see the translation as well? Lord of the worlds. Al-Alamina. If I asked you that the worlds is, what should be the status of Al-Alamina? Rana is very well done. It can be nasb or jar, but now I'm not breaking it, right? I'm saying that it is Rabbil Alameen. So now tell me the status, and you can say that it is because the worlds is after off. It is only and only, I know it's only jar in status, right? Everyone with me so far? Very well done. Alhamdulillah. So now, when we see this word, Rabbi, what do you think is giving it a jar status? And this is, we have not learned this, but we will, just briefly, I will want you to know. Remember the concept of follower? The concept of follower, lillahi is lafzul jalala was made jar because of li, right? So now Rabbil Alameen is description for lafzul jalala, isn't it? It's a description. It's describing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. He is Rabb of the worlds, right? Yes, on its own, if a word was alone, you can say, yes, very well done, Alina. You can say Al-Alamina was Nasban jar. But when I tell you that this is how it is connected, so then you are going to only say that this is jar in status. So the concept of follower, which we briefly touched upon, here you can see that Rabbi is jar in status because it is the description for lafzul jalala. And here you will, inshallah, we will do the properties later on, and we will come back to this concept as well. Okay, so a little a review of what we did during our previous sessions, and and inshallah, let's come back to what we were doing during our last session, and we take it from there, inshallah. Okay, so we were learning the concept of light and heavy. Everyone knows by now, and should know by now, that your word by default should be heavy, right? And you can make your word light just by removing noon. That's easy, and there is no difficulty. Okay, so inshallah, from here, if we can go to you have already understood this Muslim chart, how we have seen it in the heavy form, learned it in the heavy form, and we do have it in the light form as well. And same goes with muslimatun and muslima, to that you have understood all this, right? I hope. Type 1 if you are able to comprehend all this, but I just showed you. From the review, I could tell that people were aware that your munada, the one being called, is always light, right? The one being called is always light. And though if your munada sometimes will have dhamma, but does not mean it's a doer or a subject. That's all we did in our review that I could not record earlier on. But I think it was clear. Now, then you reviewed your la raiba, how it is going to be different from la raibun. There is no doubt is different from there is absolutely no doubt, right? Now, if your word is a mudaf, if your word is a mudaf, okay, we have not learned it, but just at this point, if you can just understand this was also, I think we briefly touched upon, but just if you always see this, your kitabullahi, you only see one dhamma. Can you all appreciate this, that your word was in possession, right? Is the one, is an object that was possessed. So whatever is the object, the object that is possessed is always going to be, the object that is possessed is going to be light or heavy? Light. Okay. So now everyone agrees it's going to be light. So the book is light. Can you see Rasulullahi? Rasulullahi. When you see this word, what do you see in Rasul? Is the word heavy? Your word is heavy by default. But here, Rasul is, everyone appreciate that, the object that is possessed is also going to be light. There is no tanween there. There is no tanween. There's no tanween. And in always, sometimes your word is heavy by the use of tanween, and sometimes your word is heavy by presence. Your word shows its heavy status by presence of what letter? Which letter will be seen if your word is heavy? If it is not a singular, if it is a dual or a plural, the heaviness is shown by the presence of noon. Very well done, Aisha Azra Ghazala. Very well done. See, when your word was heavy, your word had noon, muslimani. And then when you made it light, what did you see? Muslima. It all your duals lost their noons, right? In case of masculine plurals, all your plurals lost their noon. Everyone with me? Okay. Similarly, similar was the case when I made Muslimatun chart light. In case of dual, everywhere I lost my noon, and where there was a tanween, you ended up with a single haraka, right? Because again, Muslimatun or Muslimatun has a noon at the end, right? They both, this chart, this column, and this column, it ends with what? In case of heavy, which letter do they end with? This one and this one, the mufrad, noon, right? If you can just put n, that is good enough. Okay, alhamdulillah. So only your noon was gone and you made your word light. Okay, so if your word is one that is possessed, it's going to be light. And you can see what do you see here? Rabbi is light or heavy? Rabbi is no noon, right? So what was that? Wasn't it something that was possessed? Rab of the worlds, right? It was the word before of, right? So it is light. It's going to be light. Maliki Yomi, master or sovereign of day. So what is happening to Malik? Same rule. All appreciate that because it was the thing that was possessed. Rub, rub of the worlds here, who is the all the words, who the world or the worlds are the one, we have our Rab, right? Allah does not have Rab, right? Rab does not have Rab. So who is having the possession? Rab is the one who is possessed by all of us, right? We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think of this. So the worlds have, if I put it in the other words in the simpler terms, Lord of the worlds, the worlds The worlds, the whole alam, they possess Rabb. The worlds possess Rabb, right? We all have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? We are so blessed. Is it clear, Sister Aisha? I hope, whoever asked this question, it is clear. So that is why, Maliki Yomi, so Yom, there's a day, and somebody is, master of the day, okay? So the word before off is going to be light. Can you see that? Malik, sovereign, of, day. So it is, Malik is light because it was before off, okay? And similarly, can you see? Yom is again light. Yom is why? Day of judgment. Day of judgment. So this Yom was also before off, so it is also light. Can you all appreciate this or no? Have you all understood this? Okay. Now it's go to an easy one. Suratul lazina, path of those who. So why is Sirat light? Yes, both Maliki and Yom are light because they are before off. Okay. It is before off, Sirat is also light. So this word, which is before off in a possessive relationship, is Mudaf. It is called Mudaf. We are going to, yes. So again, Alina, is it now clear that Sirat was possessed by Al-Lazina? It is the path of those who you blessed, you had favored them, right? So that is why you can see here that this word is light. It's a difficult concept, but we have not even done this concept yet. We will have a separate class on on how you're going to join words, and we have not started yet. It's just because I had to go through this in your light and heavy concept in order to make you understand what is light heavy. It will be repeated. Yes, it's going to be repeated a lot. It's just the beginning of things. You know how we go back to everything, number, gender, everything. Similarly, we are going to go back to this concept as well. So every time your word is before off word is light. After off word is gerund status. Before off word is what? Before off word is always light. Right? Everyone with me now? A little bit. Even if you understood half of it, it's fair. It's good. Okay. So this is your third reason for your word to be light. Then is your fourth reason. There are certain words that are always going to be light. They can never ever take the mean. And we are going to do our flexibility today as it is in your Arabic language book that we have been following. So there are certain words they can never ever take the mean. They are always light. They can never be heavy. It's just the nature of the word. It's never going to be heavy. Okay, keep that in mind. So with that, let's start. Before I start on telling you what is this partly flexible business, let me finish here. If a word has al, or which is also called lam tarif, then discussion of light and heavy becomes irrelevant. Okay, discussion of light and heavy is irrelevant if a word has lam tarif. Okay, because what did we learn in the very beginning? In the very beginning, I taught you that tanween and al can never coexist. Do you remember that concept? That phrase that al and tanween cannot coexist. So if I ever asked you, alhamdu, is it light or heavy? What are you going to tell me? You are going to tell me it does not applicable. NA. Your answer will be NA, not light. No, because your al and tanween, it cannot be alhamdun. This does not happen. So it does not apply. The concept of light and heavy does not apply on a word that has al. I hope it is not that difficult. Is it? If it is, if anyone not able to understand this, let me know, my dear sisters. So, Ar-Rahmani, if I ask you, is it light or heavy? What will you tell me? N-A. Ar-Rahimi, what is it? N-A. Al-Alamina, what are you going to tell me now? It light and heavy does not apply if my word is with al. If it is, if it has al in the beginning, light and heavy concept is it's not applicable. As-sirat, light or heavy? Al-mustaqim, light or heavy? Al-lazina, no, this is an inbuilt, so yeah, it's here, it's also not applicable, but because it has inbuilt al, that is another story, but yeah, it is also not applicable. Al-maghdubi, light or heavy? Ad-dallin, not applicable. Everyone with me so far? Al-fatihatu, in lafzul jalala, 60% of grammarians say that it has inbuilt al, and rest say that it is one word that is just like any name, like Maryam or Zainab. It does not, this al is not this separate al. But 60% of grammarians do say that this al is there is al plus ilah. Okay, is it clear, Alina, about the lafzul jalala? Alhamdulillah. So anywhere you see al, and I'm going to trick you during our next review. I'm going to ask you, and no one should make mistake, inshallah. Okay, inshallah. But if you do, that's okay. But my heart, it will break my heart, because this is simple, right? This is so easy for you, for a class like you, because alhamdulillah, I'm blessed to have you all. You're smart, very very smart girls. I have Hina here, I have Azra, I have Alina, Aisha, and I'm missing Mavra today, but alhamdulillah. So let's just start. Flexibility. So what is flexibility? Let's start with the very start. So it's the ability of a word to show its status or role in a sentence. So if a word is able to show its status or a role in a sentence, the word is going to be fully flexible word. What do you think about Muslimun? Does it seem like a word that is fully flexible? Agree? Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin. You got your all three statuses. You look at the word and you are able to understand. It can be doer, or it can be detail, or it can be after all, just by looking at the word, because the ending of the word is showing you all that. This word is going to, the word is going to be your, that kind of a word that shows you dammatain, kasratain, fathatain. That kind of a word is going to be your fully flexible word. Okay, in the beginning, when I started the topic of status, I told you that there are 85% of the words in Arabic that are going to be fully flexible. Remember the number that I gave you, and I remember Aisha remembered that there was 85% of the words that will tell us that whether it is rough, nasb, or jar. And then comes your 13% of words. This category, partly flexible word. These are words that are always going to be light. They can never take the knee. Okay, and they constitute about 13% of your words of Arabic. They are not going. They are going to be looking the same when they are nasb or jar. You have to figure out whether they are nasb or jar by the context. Then and there are words like Maryam, names of people. Most of the non-Arab names are like that, and we will inshallah learn detail of partly flexible in a little bit. And then comes your words that are non-flexible. What do you think about Isa, Musa? Can you ever tell their ending, by their ending, what whether they are rough, nasb, or jar? Can you? Isa, Musa. Do you think they tell you by when I say these words? They no they end with alif maksura. If they end with alif maksura, if you remember seeing them in this as in the slides previously, right? So they end with alif maksura. So the alif is the ending of the word. So seen is carries the fatha, but the last letter of the name is alif maksura actually, and it's not carrying any haraka there that tells you what the role the word is performing in any given verse. For example, I can do not hear anything like Musa yun, Musa yan, Musa yin. Can I ever say it like that? Can I ever say it like that? So will I ever know if I just if I'm just given this name Musa or Isa, will I ever know what role my word is performing in any given verse? No. I just I have to read the verse, and then by context I can determine the role. But just if it is separate from a verse, I'm not able to tell. But if I am asking you what is the status of word Muslimun, what will you all say? Enough. If I say Muslimin, what's the status of the word? It's jar. Musliman, what's the status of the word? Do you remember the word allazina? When we did, who has memorized some Mawsul chart? Alina, do you mind if you can unmute yourself and recite to me allazi chart?
Okay, so it should be allazi, allazani, allazina, allazi, allazaini, allazina, allazi, allazaini, allazina.
So if you are reciting it, it's like allazi, allazi, allazi in your first column. In the column of your
Oh,
mufrad.
subhanallah. Okay, sorry, vertical. Okay. So allazi, 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 allazani, allazaini, allazaini, and allazina, allazina, allazina.
So in all three cases of mufrad or singular, did you notice any change in allazi?
No,
Can you tell one allazi from another allazi?
no, we can't.
We cannot. And what happens when you say allazina, allazina? Sister Ranaz has this question that it can be in rough status, it's going to be allazina. In nasb status, it's going to be allazina. In jar status, it's going to be allazina. Alhamdulillah,
Yes.
they can be showing any one of the status, but you are only going to be able to determine the status by looking at the context of the verse. By just looking at the word, you are not able to determine whether it is rough nasab jar. You are remember if you when we were doing our review on allazina, we wrote R and J. It could be anything, right? Because we were just in the beginning of our status, so we did not know any after off, we did not know anything. So we just wrote R and jar because it could be anything. So those kinds of words that are not never ever going to be able to show you that whether they are roughness just by at the look of them, by their word structure, those words are going to be non-flexible. Jazakallah khair, Alina. So those words are going to be what words? Your non-flexible words. Okay. So remember that by flexibility, flexibility is an ability of a word to show its status or a role in a verse. Okay. Three types of words. There are three types of words. Okay. They are fully flexible, partly flexible, and non-flexible. So you understood what fully flexible word looks like. You understood your non-flexible word. There is something that you need to learn about your partly flexible word. Okay. So let's see what it is all about. So if you come to your fully flexible word, you already have seen, we have already gone over this orally that 85% of words are fully flexible, and this is just like your Muslim chart: Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin. Okay. When it comes to your non-flexible, we just see haza, haza, haza. Can you see? Can you tell one rafa haza from jar haza or nas? No, they are non-flexible. When it comes to ha ulai, can you tell one from another that it is raf nasb? No, you can say, it can be anyone. I have to look at the context of the word verse. What my word is going to be, only by context I can tell. And we just have done a lazy thing, right? Now comes your partly flexible. Okay, and partly flexible is a long list, but alhamdulillah, Ustad has done it in a simpler way. And if you want to do it in a simpler way, that's okay as well. But I do have some information on that. And sometimes it's not always important to deliver all the information at once. We will take it slowly, but you will get everything surely, and that I can assure you that you will, inshallah, be able to understand what it is all about. So your partly flexible word, these words show their status only in two ways. Now, that is number one point that you need to all know. They are only going to show their status in how many ways? Okay. Two ways. Kindly mute yourself, everyone, my dear. Okay, so two ways. A fully flexible word shows its status in how many ways? Fully flexible. Non-flexible word shows its status in how many ways? One way. Yeah, so there is actually, you can just say that you can never tell. It's zero is also a right answer. Non-flexible word is never ever going to show you, it's almost zero. You cannot, you get no clue whether it's rough, nasb, or jar. Yes, you can say your word is by default rough, but even that does not help, because your word, you have to look at the verse and understand by the context, inshallah. So everyone with me so far, that partly flexible will show its status in only two ways. Alhamdulillah, keep that in mind. Okay, it's a number two: fully flexible, partly flexible, non-flexible. So none, almost none. Just remember, non-flexible, everything will look the same. I have to look at the words in the context. Fully flexible, full. So full three statuses are shown. Okay, partly flexible, two, partly two ways it's going to show its status. They do not take tanween. They never ever take tanween. Will you all remember that? Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair, Alina. Very well done. So they do not take tanween. You will never see Yusufun, Maryamun, Hamzatun. No, you will never see things like that. Jahannamun. No, it does not exist like that. There is only one way. And what you have learned, your word by default should be heavy or light? Heavy. So this is one of the reasons. Remember, after the four reasons, one reason of your word to be light is if your word is partly flexible. If your word is partly flexible, then your word is going to be light. Their jar status is denoted by fatha. Their jar status is denoted by fatha. Which status? How will they look when they are jar? They will have a fatha at the end. Keep that in mind. Can you see here? Yusufu, Yusufa, Yusufa. Can you see? When the word was Yusufa in nasb, in jar, what should be ideally, if it was fully flexible, what would have been the ending? Kasra, right? It should have kasra, Yusufi, but there is no Yusufi. Okay, remember that. Remember that. They will show their jar status by the presence of fatha. So in both jar and when they are nasb and jar, in both cases, the word will end with haraka fatha. Which haraka the word will end even in the jar status? Fatha. Fatha. Fatha, they will have fatha ending. Okay. And you can see all in this table: Jahannamu, Jahannama, Jahannama, Bakkatu, Bakkata, Bakkata, Hamzatu, Hamzata, Hamzata, Maryamu, Maryama, Maryama. Everyone understood this so far? That I'm going to tell you how you will know that. There's a list of words that are going to fall under the category of partly flexible. You will learn that. So now, with everything, with every rule, there is an exception. With almost every rule, you will see an exception. There is always is a word that does not exist in the world. Keep that in mind. Even, the syndromes or the diagnoses, or, different diagnoses, you will see rarities everywhere. Similarly, in Arabic language, we have exceptions as well. So these words, I just told you, these guys will never take kasra, but they will take kasra in two conditions. In two conditions. How? If there is al present, if there is al in the beginning of the word, or if they are mudaf. And this mudaf is the same guy that is a word that comes before your off. Remember, we have learned the word after off is going to be what in status? Jar in status. After off word is jar in status, right? Jar in status. Now, we just did a reason for a word to be light is if it is before off, right? Rabbil Alameen, right? That's okay. So something like that we have just done. So if a word is before off, which is called mudaf in Arabic, if your word is before off, then your word can still take kasra. Okay, your word can take kasra in that case. So how I am going to show you in Quran, this is something I'm going to show you a little later, but just see how this works in Quran. What do you think is the meaning of Millati Ibrahima? Let's do this example first. Millati Ibrahima. Who can translate this one for me? Yes, the one possessed. Yes, Hina, it is Mudaf is one possessed. Millat of Ibrahim, nation of Ibrahim. Yes, very well done. Everyone agrees? So, Millati Ibrahima. So, of Ibrahim. So, what should have been the status of Ibrahim alayhi salam? Jar? But how does it look like here? It should have kasra, right, Aisha? Does it have kasra here? In Quran, does it have kasra? No, because it is your partly flexible word, right? It's your partly flexible. It's not an exception. This is how this is a rule. Okay, exception we are going to learn little later, right? So this is how it should be because it is your partly flexible word. That is why your Ibrahima is not Ibrahimi, right? Everyone with me so far? I want my sisters who are doing grammar for the first time to answer. Hina, Aisha, Alina, Homa, Ranaz. Okay. So our partly flexible words show their jar status by the use of fatha, as you can see in this column. Yusufa, Maryama, Hamzata, Jahannama, Bakkata. Okay. They don't take kasra except in two conditions. Except in two conditions. For that condition, and those two conditions are: number one, if a word has al, then they should be able to take kasra, or if the word is mudaf, the one possessed. For example, if I take any word, like there's a word ahsan. It is a partly flexible word. Ahsanu, ahsana, ahsana. But if it is mudaf, then it is going to take kasra. But this concept we have not learned it in detail, so I will, we will go over it again. Okay, we will not spend too much time over that. At this point, if you can just learn that your partly flexible shows its status in two ways, that is dhamma and fatha. Even in jar status, it's going to have a fatha, but the status is jar. So why isn't it millati Ibrahima? Because your word is partly flexible. This is jar in status. The status is actually jar, but it is being denoted by fatha because the word falls under category of partly flexible word. Yes, it should have kasra, right? It is after off word. It should ideally have kasra, but it does not have kasra because it is your partly flexible word. Yes, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Sir, like it says, they don't take kasra except in two conditions. So in Millati Ibrahima, it is mudaf. So why isn't it not taking kasra?
It is not mudaf. Mudaf is millati. Remember the
Oh,
word before.
okay. So the Millati is mudaf, but
Yeah,
Ibrahima is not. Okay,
yeah.
Jazakallah.
Vaya ki, Alina. So is it clear now? Alhamdulillah. I'm glad you asked this question. I hope it is clear because this is millati is your before of, and your before of can be can take kasra if it is a word that is partly flexible. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Everyone with me now? And again, I'm going to recommend kindly, if you do not understand, go back to your review, and that's why we record every session. Okay, so now let's learn why your word is going to be, what are the reasons your word is going to be partly flexible. Why your word should be partly flexible. Your non-Arab names that are more than 3 letters, like Yusuf. How many letters are there in Yusuf? 4. So it's going to be fully flexible, partly flexible, or non-flexible? Partly flexible. So your word, and I just wrote mamnu min as-sarf. It's an Arabic for partly flexible. Let me just put partly flexible as well here so that it's something that is clear and you don't get confused when you get these notes. Okay, so reason for a word to be partly flexible: if your word is a non-Arab name that is more than 3 letters, then it's going to be partly flexible. When you start your Arabic or Islamic sciences like that, most of the people are, it's not possible for us to know everything because everyone's exposure to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different. And that's quite okay. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided our hearts and we are here and we are learning everything. So not more, for most of the people, every prophet is an Arab prophet. They don't know everything is Arab for, because Quran is in Arabic. Everyone thinks that, Adam alayhi salam is, or, everything is Arab, or, your, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's, because he was in Makkah, so he's also an Arab. No, he was originally from Iraq. He is non-Arab prophet. He's a non-Arab prophet. So keep that in mind. And here in this slide, you can learn who are your Arab prophets and who are your non-Arab prophets. So you can see non-Arab names that are more than 3 letters, like Yusuf, is going to be partly flexible. Again, there is an exception in Quran. Uzair alayhi salam was not an Arab prophet, but his name has come up as fully flexible name in Quran. It has tanween. Can you all note this? This is in your slide, so you should be good, but just pay attention. For now, pay attention. Then this name Uzair, he is a non-Arab prophet, but his name has come up as fully flexible name. And I will tell you what grammarians say. Why is it fully flexible? It's a lot of debate about it, but we'll learn it in our advanced sessions. Other exceptions are, did you see this three letter, more than three letter? I just also wrote, not just said that, all your non-Arab prophets in your Arabic language book, you may have just seen, like, non-Arab names are going to be partly flexible. But if your name is three letter, can you see how many letters are there in Hud? Hud alayhi salam, how many letters in his name? 3. Nuh alayhi salam, how many letters in his name? 3. Lut alayhi salam, how many letters? 3. If your name, even though it is non-Arab, but it is three lettered with the middle letter with a sukoon, can you all appreciate that Hud, Nuh, and Lut all have sukoon in the middle? Everyone with me so far? Because this is important. This is, sometimes very frustrating to memorize, why this, why that. But this is, if you spend some time on this is going to make a lot of difference in your understanding. Okay, so your Hud, Nuh, Lut alayhi salam, how are they ending? Hudun, Nuhun, Lutun. These two we have read in our previous session as well, right? They are ending with tanween. Qawma Lutin, Qawma Nuhin. Remember, we did it. So they are fully flexible. They show their rafa, nasb, jar status because they are three lettered. And also the second requirement is, what is the second requirement? Sukoon on the middle letter. Sukoon on the middle letter. Sukoon on your middle letter is an absolute for this rule to work. Your name, though it is non-Arab, but if it is three lettered with a sukoon in the middle letter, your word is going to be fully flexible, though it is non-Arab name. So from the beginning, non-Arab names are partly flexible with exceptions. First exception you learned was Uzair alayhi salam. Everyone remember this name, okay? Because there's going to be these things will inshallah make you much smarter than other students. Okay, so let me tell you, because these are questions. People, you have lots of questions on these Arab names and non-Arab names, and especially when they have learned all this, when they are doing their advanced grammar. And inshallah, you will learn why why grammarians saying that this is, why is this name fully flexible. This one we know because of the rule. This one I told you what the rule is behind it. But the same rule does not apply on Uzair alayhi salam, does it? This is not a three-letter word. This is not, does not have a sukoon in the middle because there's no middle, right? It's an even number. It's a 4 letters, right? So this is an exception, and this you have to learn. But this one I told you why these 3 names are fully flexible, because they are 3-lettered with sukoon on the middle letter. Then your Arab names that are fully flexible are Muhammad, Shu'aib, Salih alayhi salam. Muhammad, Shu'aib, Salih alayhi salam. Ranaz, you are saying this one, that it should be partly flexible by the look of it, about Uzair alayhi salam. Uzair alayhi salam's name? Yes, you are right. Yeah, by the look of it should be partly flexible, but it is not. But we'll learn why it is not. So non-Arab names in Arabic that are fully flexible, again, are these 4. Keep that in mind. It's just a repetition of what I just said there. Okay, what I just said there. So what should be your non-Arab name? So first reason for a word to be partly flexible is if your word is name that is non-Arab. If your word is a non-Arab name that has more than 3 letters, your word is going to be partly flexible. Number 1 reason, with exceptions that we have already done. Okay, everyone with me so far or no? Okay, now if your name If your name is a name of a place, like Bakka, it is used in Quran. It is used in Quran. It is going to be what? It's going to be partly flexible. Partly flexible. If your name is a name of a place, it's going to be partly flexible. Your name is going to be partly flexible if it's a proper name of a place like Bakka, Misr. Okay. Now, Misr is also, you should have, anyone could ask me that this is also 3-letter with a sukoon in the middle. Yes, there should be Medina, and Medina is not a proper name. Medina, any city is in Arabic, in actuality, is called Medina. So keep that in mind, right? So Al Madinatul Munawwara or Madinatul Nabi, that is another thing. But Medina, any city in Arabic is called Medina. It's called Medina. So for now, since I'm running out of time, so if you can just remember this, if your name is non-Arab and is more than 3 letters, it's going to be partly flexible. Number one reason for a word to be partly flexible. Number two reason, if a word is a proper name of a place, it's going to be partly flexible. Okay. If you are dealing with a name that is ending with alif noon, if there is a name that is ending with alif noon, the name is going to be partly flexible. Yes, it is going to be fully flexible, Sister Anaz. If your word is a name of a place and if it has al attached to it, then this al will make it fully flexible. Yes, it can make it fully flexible, meaning it can take kasra. It can take kasra. So for now, I'm going to end my session here, and I will leave you with this information that if your name is non-Arab name, if your name is a name of a place, or if there is a name that is ending with alif noon, your word is going to be like Usman, Imran. These are names. Imran has been used in Quran as well. So these are examples of your partly flexible words. Partly flexible, which are also called mamnu min as-sarf. I will have to end the session here, and inshallah, please kindly send your questions to Sister Faiza. I will be more than happy to address each and every question and concern, because that's how you learn, and other people learn through your questions. So help them learn as well. Yes, Azra, Suleiman, yes. And you will see in Quran, it's going to be treated as partly flexible because it has ani ending. It has alif noon at the end. If your word is ending, if your name is ending with alif noon. So with that, I'm going to end the session. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Stay blessed, everyone.